This month on Truth to Tell Community Connections, we look at the still ever-present issue of foreclosures in the community. They're still happening all over the metro area. We'll talk to some homeowners that are dealing with this firsthand, some activists that are dealing with the ripple effects of foreclosure, as well as helping some of these homeowners to try to stay in their homes. And we'll talk to the experts about what policies are being passed and what policies still need to be made to keep this from happening in the future. That's this month on Truth to Tell Community Connections.
We need to make sure that we have stable homes so we have a stable community, so families, young kids, mothers, fathers, grandparents have a place to call their own and lay their head down.
Just having a stable place to live is really necessary.
The number of foreclosures in 2013 is still substantially higher than the number that used to happen each year prior to the bubble burst.
I've been in my home here for 30 years. I bought it with my late husband. We bought it for $74,900. And in the 30 years that I've been here, I've already paid $425,000.
There are a huge number of reasons why people face foreclosure. For a while in the early stages of the crisis, it was a lot about predatory lending.
That is wrong, because then you don't see it.
And now what does that mean?
Well, it means they could evict me within 24 hours.
Deceit rang my phone over and over, called by name, claimed to be working with me, at the same time sold my home right out from under me.
I actually got into trouble after my husband died with a predatory lender.
A lot of people have been victims of predatory loans, have been put into positions where they've paid for their houses many times over and yet are still being put out by the big banks.
I ended up, at the time of my foreclosure, I was paying almost $2,200 a month. So it was not sustainable.
Dual tracking simply means that the bank owns the mortgage, but the servicing of the mortgage is done by a separate company. And what's happened is sometimes a person will get behind in their payments, and the bank has the ability to do a loan modification, but the servicer is the one that actually does the foreclosure.
Keith Ellison, I contacted him about contacting Freddie Mac to have them deal with me. And he was told that I'm currently in court with them, that I chose to go to court. Now, they tried to evict me. I had to go to eviction court. It wasn't my choice. Because they were dual tracking me, because it appeared Chase was still trying to work with me.
I leaned in, I whispered, I believe this is my home.
Jewish Community Action came together with a bunch of organizations to start the Northside Community Reinvestment Coalitions. People from different communities were partnering, and they were literally just going out to streets that had a lot of vacant housing, knocking on doors, and lo and behold, a lot of the people we knocked on said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm facing foreclosure.
We know that the housing crisis has caused untold harm in our neighborhoods.
Occupy Homes is the only organization that came to me and asked me if I wanted to save my home rather than lose it.
I started staying in vacants this previous March. I officially moved into one in May, and I've been staying in reclaimed vacant houses, working to renovate the homes and use them to put pressure on these banks to donate these buildings to the community for community-controlled affordable housing.
When they were scheduled to evict me on my daughter's birthday, October 8th, 150 community members showed up and formed a blockade around my house. And the sheriffs weren't able to evict me. These are cement barrels. They probably weigh a ton. There is a little bar across it where you can lock into that. And this tactic is actually to delay the sheriff so that more people could get here for the barricade.
We believe that housing is a human right. It even says so in the UN Charter.
It makes absolutely no sense why any bank would not want to do a modification, because at the end of the day, they don't want to own the homes outright. Better for the family too, better for the community.
I'm asking for a just mortgage at current market value.
Principal reduction means if I bought a home 6-7 years ago and it was worth $200,000, the housing bubble burst, now the home is worth $80,000. Principal reduction says, let me pay my mortgage based on the $80,000 worth of the house.
They can't reap all their, all the penalties that they're getting off of a small homeowner like me.
We also know that there needs to be something done about what the community knows about the banks how they know what kind of behavior banks are doing. And so we worked with Elizabeth Glidden, John Quincy, and other members of the City Council to recently pass the Responsible Banking Ordinance. It's going to say to the banks, if you want to become a depository for city taxpayer money, you are going to have to provide a set of data, loan modifications, number of foreclosures, so that the public has a better understanding of the performance of a bank in the community.
We're going to shift the way we think about what government looks at when we make decisions about who our vendors are.
We think what responsible banking can do is begin the process of making communities healthier by increasing the investment in those communities by banks.
Foreclosure just doesn't affect some, it affects all. It could be your neighbor, your brother, your mother, you.
And just knowing that you have a steady place to go home to, where you can make yourself a meal and lie down in your own bed is an amazing feeling that I think a lot of people really take for granted.
It's still a significant problem, and it still needs a lot of people and resources to deal with it.
I love my neighbors. I love the community. I don't want to move.